Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode 119. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. A quick note before we begin, if you have kiddos in your car or within hearing distance, please note that this particular episode is marked as explicit. The funny thing is, the ironic thing is, we are talking about parenting today, but there is some cussing involved. I know many of you listen in your car or at home with the kiddos around, and you are not used to this on this particular podcast. So heads up, this is one where you're going to put on your headphones, put in your earbuds, or listen without the kiddos around unless you don't care. So heads up, let's begin. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and I have a very special guest for you today. Now, I know this is technically coming out in June, but we're recording this the day after Mother's Day, and we're going to talk a lot about parenting today. So it's perfect timing. I am so pleased to introduce you to my mastermind sister, Heather Chauvin. We are in Selena Sue's mastermind together, and I absolutely love her and everything that she is doing. You will find her on TEDx. She has a TEDx called Dying to Be a Good Mother. And you can also find her podcast, Mom is in Control. Her background is actually social work, but she has been working with women and does a lot around parenting and energetic management. And we're going to get into all of that in this show. But she has so much to share, and I'm so excited to introduce you. Heather, welcome to Hustle and Flow.
Yay, Heather. It's so weird when you're like, thanks, Heather.
All the Heathers.
All the Heathers. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. All right. So let's just start with, I know I kind of said what you do, but in your own words, just kind of share with the audience what you do now in your work.
Yeah, I love this question. It's always that question you have to ask yourself, right? Do you ever be like, what am I really teaching people? What makes me different? It's always the elevator pitch that they want you to create. But to be honest, like I'll just go back a little bit. But so my background in social work, you jump into something because you love it, right? And I always love figuring out why people do what they do. And being a mom, I'm a mother of 3 boys. I'm also way more than a mother and a woman and a wife and all of those, business owner, those things. So there's 2 parts to what I do. And back in the day when I was a social worker, I loved child development. I fell in love with mindfulness because my children needed it, and found this niche, whatever you want to call it, of, where we're labeling behavior in children, but we're not like giving solutions or strategies to solve the problems. It's just like, oh, here's the label, here's medication, go talk it out, go do whatever. And being a mother, I was like, oh gosh, something feels really off because now I'm going down this path and this shit isn't working for me. Like it's not working for me and my children, and I'm educated. Why can't I figure this out? So it became this spiritual path, this journey in parenting, that there is no one right way to quote unquote be a good mother, to raise amazing, confident, awesome human beings. So there's that aspect of it. And then 5 years ago, while I was building my business, while I was doing everything quote unquote right, checking the boxes and just go, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. And it was a rapid growing cancer. And when I tell people that, they're like, oh my gosh, it either triggers their fear or they're very curious. Mm-hmm. And I just neglected my own needs for so long that it just exploded in my face. And I did what what we're taught culturally as women, and not just so much mothers, but culturally as women, which is, doing anything for yourself is very selfish, and putting yourself at the top of your priority list, like that's a no-no. So I never made it on my list. And I wound up in Emerge, and through a routine CT and blood work that night, they're like, Heather, you have cancer. We're just not sure what kind or the progression of it. And deep down, my wisdom, like there was that knowing where I was like, oh crap, I knew I was sick. I knew I was sick. And so my business at that time was very child focused, like very like, okay, what's the child's behavior? What's it telling us? Like, let's do this for the child. Let's do that for the child. And then after I got sick, it was this huge aha moment that the people I was working with were like, I don't have time for this. I don't have the energy for this. I'm so angry and resentful. I'm so this. Who am I? What's my purpose? I can't figure this out. I don't even have time for myself. And so I realized that, or my perspective of parenting is our children pick us to show us where we need to grow. It is this spiritual journey where we're collaborating with each other. I'm a human. My child is a human. We're both having this human experience together, and we're here to learn and evolve and grow. I'm not perfect. I will never be perfect. And after that, I had to realize, how do I want to feel in my relationship with my children? And alive was definitely one of those words. Energized was one of those words. And I had to start asking myself, if I want to feel alive and energized and connected to my children, what do I need to do every single day, moment by moment, to align that energy with who I am now? And there was so much unlearning that had to happen, and resistance and going against the current and like pissing people off, to realize that I had purpose in this world, meaning my voice mattered, my desires matter, how I want to feel matters. And so at first I did it from a place of fear and a basic human need to stay alive, which was very, very scary. And then as I started to see this momentum in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel better, I feel better, I feel better, I started to realize this is positively impacting my business. How did I just make more money doing less? This is positively impacting my relationships with my children. Like, how am I creating connection here? How am I feeling respected from them? How am I getting them to listen to me without yelling and screaming and constant go, 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 go? So it was reverse engineering. How do I want to feel first? And then realigning my life with that. And it sounds quote unquote easy. It was work. It was dedication. It was commitment. And I tell people that I didn't just take a weekend course and then I went home and washed my hands and I was perfectly fine. I had to show up every single day and use tools and strategies to ask myself, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And then I had to give myself enough permission to act on those desires, knowing that I wasn't taking away from my children, from my clients, or anybody else in my life. And that's kind of what Mom is in Control came to be, that when we're feeling out of control, we need to ask ourselves why and how can we get back on path?
There's so much here. I love this. Okay, so let's go back to when you were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, because I remember like the visual, right? The visual that you shared in your TEDx talk. It's really striking. And so everyone's just going to have to go watch this to see the visual. But you had mentioned in it that like you were ignoring your body and you were ignoring your feelings. And I think women in general have this problem, right? Because we're trying to be everything to everyone and we put ourselves last. But I suspect, I'm not a mother, but I suspect that it's even worse for mothers. So can you just talk a little bit more about that, about, ignoring your body and your feelings to even, almost not push off like having this cancer diagnosis, but if you'll just kind of share like that visual, I think you know what I'm talking about, of kind of like where you were at that point.
Yeah, like the surrender when I looked up. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, and partly, you looked pregnant, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm like, oh God, where to start? One, we said yesterday was Mother's Day when we're recording this. I went on this little rant. I don't know. There's this weirdness. The more work I do with women, the more I realize there's like this undergroundness of being female. We're either mothers and we're not good enough mothers, or we're women without children. And there's like the societal like pressure and expectation of that. I think women in general are nurturers. And yesterday I went on this rant on my Instagram that I think Mother's Day should be a celebration of all women because we're all mothering, we're all nurturers, whether, we're nurturing people around us. Like that is our human nature. And so this day of like celebration, yes, I get it. And yes, there's extra pressure, but it's just a weird concept because so many women in my life who've been like the biggest influence for me are actually not mothers. And yet they were so mothering and so nurturing to me. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Two, this is ridiculous. I can't believe I got to this point, but I know I'm not alone. So my abdomen was swollen and I thought I had this gluten allergy or something. And I was like, oh, frick, I'm going to be one of those people. One of those people have to, like, I was into this health world. I was into yoga and meditation and personal development. And I was starting to get into food, but I didn't understand my body. I didn't understand anything. I just, you hear a lot about gluten allergies and food sensitivities. And I knew some people like that. I was like, oh, what's going on? Okay, maybe I just have an allergy. So I'll start figuring out how to eat gluten-free. And that was like really overwhelming to me. So, because I can do it all myself. God forbid I ask for help. And then I just knew in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the doctors. They're going to put me through these tests. I'm never going to find an answer. So I already discounted that, like not asking for help, not even seeking like advice or counsel from anybody. Heather's just going to solve her own problems. Well, that didn't really help. So weeks are going by. I'm getting like more sick and more sick, meaning I'm losing weight rapidly, not paying attention to that. I'm starting to get night sweats, like all these signs and symptoms. And then in my TEDx talk, Dying to be a Good Mother, I show a picture of my abdomen. That was after I was diagnosed, but there was this weird period where there's about 2 weeks from diagnosis to when I started traditional treatment. And I was very resistant to traditional treatment because I was like, no, I've Googled like how I can cure my cancer. And I've talked to like, some retreat center in Mexico that was like, you're going to die if you go through chemo. And like, there's so much fear mongering in the cancer world. And it's really kind of disgusting. It's the same with the food industry. It's same with everything. And at that point, I didn't have any awareness. I had a little, awareness. I knew what fear was, but gosh, you don't know what fear is until you've had a health crisis. And so there's this weird period where my abdomen just grew rapidly. And at this point, I looked 9 months pregnant. And I remember walking into a cancer clinic where I was getting a second opinion, and a woman walks in the elevator with me. She's like, oh my God, when are you due? And I was like, oh shit, like this is going to be the biggest like foot in the mouth moment for her. And I looked and I was like, this is my lymphoma, baby. These are tumors growing in my abdomen. And she turned white and she's like, I am so sorry. And I looked at her and I said, please don't. I probably feel worse for you than you do for me. But when someone starts asking you, like, when are you due? Yeah. I just had this aha moment. It's like, how sad is that I had to get to that point in order to surrender and to pay attention that something was wrong with my body. And I remember being diagnosed, so going back a few weeks, the first time they're like, we think you have cancer. It was like December 21st. So a few nights before Christmas, it's raining. And where I'm from, it's supposed to be snowing on Christmas. And I walk out of the hospital, I look up, the rain is literally like pouring down my face. And I'm like, you finally have my attention. And at this point, my relationship with universe, God, angels, whatever, was very rocky. And I'm like, I don't know who I'm talking to or what I'm talking to, but you finally have my attention. I will listen to you now. And I didn't know what that meant. And I just remember walking slower back to the car. And my husband's like, come on, what are you doing? Like, it's raining outside. And I'm like, I'm coming. But it's going to happen at my own pace. It's going to happen on my own terms. And I don't care if I'm wet. I don't care if it's raining. I felt like this deep cleansing, but there was something bigger at play that was finally catching my attention. And I was listening, and I didn't know how to listen, but I had to slow down to figure that out.
I mean, so many people don't have a healthcare crisis, or hopefully don't, right? But I do think that every single person listening to this can relate to the concept of being so busy, so overworked that they don't ever stop to really focus on their bodies, their physical well-being, or how they're even feeling. And I think that totally connects to what you were talking about, that you then had to do all of this work, right? To figure out what do you want and how do you want to feel. So I would love to dig into that just a little bit more on how this shifted your perspective from being a parent.
Okay. So guess what? My biggest fear was that I had to let go of my ambition. And the truth is, that's kind of what I'm on a mission, is that women with ambition and drive and a dream for more, to change, to make an impact, you can still do it, but you don't have to do it. And I don't even want to say at the pace, because there is this world of doing more is better, but I'm all about quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. And I really discovered that after this little healthcare crisis, because I grew up, and even my parents still do this. They act like they don't have money. They act like they don't have time. And I'm like, you're retired. You literally busted your ass your whole life for this pension. You save. And yet you're still buying off the discount rack. And 2 years from now, you're going to have to buy it again. And you're going to bitch and complain about that. So why don't you just buy quality the first time and save yourself all this time and energy? And yes, you have to put a little money up front, but that is how I live my life now. It's not so much about, paying more at the front. It's about my time. There's something that I talk about, which is called the $1 million minute. My time, if I think about every 60 seconds of my life is worth $1 million, am I going to say yes to that meeting? Am I going to say yes to that phone call? Am I going to say yes to those emails? And kind of, I don't want to say the side effect of that is letting people down, disappointing people, but this is where that emotional intelligence comes into play. So really understanding that, I can't reply to every email, and I can put systems and strategies and build my team and put that in place, but there will be things that fall through the cracks. But what am I focusing my highest leverage time on, my highest leverage action? I feel like I'm totally not answering your question.
No, you are.
Okay.
I would be interested though, does that also apply, right? Same concept. Do you think that it also applies to parenting, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you have to do all the things in that sense too, right? Does the $1 million minute apply there? Because it's what I see. Oftentimes I totally see the concept of like people feeling like they can't be ambitious, but I also see all of these mothers who feel like not only do they have to succeed in business, but they have to succeed with maybe stay-at-home moms. And so there just seems to be so much pressure to do all the things in every area of life. And so I'm curious, how this crisis kind of shifted your perspective from, not just the business, but the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have to realize as humans, like we're ego beings, we're egotistical. And what people don't realize in parenting, so much of our worth is attached to our children's success. And that's why, you have to become smarter than kind of the cultural idea and voice and marketing that is happening to you, because we are in this cultural epidemic of like, more is better, right? Like get your child in every activity. If you don't get your child in every activity, you're going to fail. You're not giving them opportunity. I live in Canada and hockey is a big thing here. And I'm not like a huge hockey parent, but I will walk into the arena and I'm just sometimes disgusted by the energy of like parents living vicariously through their children and go and not enough. And, you can be passionate about something, but don't get lost in why you're doing it. And it's very easy to do that. So it's getting back to, how do I want to feel in my life? I want ease. I want flow. I want lots of space. I want connection. Well, guess what? My children have one childhood and they're not going to do it all. They're not going to be it all. And an example of that is, this summer we chose not to put them in any activities. They had winter activities and my husband and I were like, let's just try this little experiment. We're not doing soccer. We're not doing baseball. We're not doing, this or that or whatever. And we're just letting the kids be kids. We're letting them play. We're letting them do whatever. It was really difficult for me to say no. And my husband, he was kind of like on board with it, but it's just an experiment. And I'm not ruining my children's future because we said no to one season of our life just to see what happens when we start to create space. And I see that, too often when I'm working with women, they're like, I'm busy. There's this. It's like, but who created this? Like, is it true that you have to do all those things for your children? And too often when our children have, I don't want to say defaults or weaknesses, or when our children are born as abnormal or unique, or they have these challenges, we want to do everything that we possibly can to support them. And there is this I don't want to say balance, but there is this alignment of really understanding I am enough, I'm good enough, and I'm doing enough, even though my children are struggling or they're challenged. And the self-awareness and interpersonal skills that you have to go, I cannot take away my child's suffering. Like that is part of their human experience as well. And I will literally make myself sick again, trying to do it all for them, meaning going from this appointment to that appointment, to this therapist, to that workshop, to reading this self-help book, to that self-help book. If I tell like any woman, I'm like, it's just knowing that you are enough by just being yourself, by just doing enough. Even if someone else says, you should be doing this, or they should be eating that, or you could be doing this. The truth is, everyone is going to give you advice on how to be perfect. And 99.9% of those people aren't even practicing what they preach, because I always tell people, perfect, you do that and come back and tell me how that worked for you. Because it's always easier to give advice than to do advice. But I find that it is this deep inner journey where you have to believe that you are good enough as a mother, as a woman, as a business owner, as a wife, as like a friend, even though you're not doing it all. I'm always thinking, oh crap, it was this person's birthday or that person's birthday. I didn't text them, or I didn't send a card, or I didn't do this. It's like, know that you are enough. And people will constantly project their stories onto you. And the more work you do on yourself, you're like, that's okay. I'm not a failure. I'm not this. I'm not that. But the more you just sit with yourself and your feelings and your stories, that's when you find the freedom that you crave. That's when you find that ease. And to me, that's where the magic happens.
It reminds me, I saw this post yesterday that Elizabeth Gilbert wrote called
I saw it. Yeah.
For the Mothers. And it was this concept of we are so harsh on mothers, on our own mothers, on other mothers we know, because basically, as children, we're all going to have issues. We're all going to have challenges, and we tend to blame our mothers, right? And we have these weird relationships with our mothers. And it's like, can we just, for one day, just have mercy on all the mothers and remember that they are humans too, with needs and wants and desires, and they're going to make mistakes, and they are not perfect. And it definitely impacted me, because I think we do hold, right? Like we hold this concept of mother to a totally different standard. Like they're not even human.
What I find crazy is the fact that women make such an impact on our psyche and who we become as adults, right? There's not this like, I guarantee you're not going to see a post like that on Father's Day. Like, yes, the mother and father truly make an impact, but there is something about mother. And, we don't say Father Earth, we say Mother Earth, right? Like everything nature, like anything natural, it's always referred to as mother, nurturer. So we put so much energy and attention and weight on everything negative about the mother, but we don't realize the impact that we have on a daily basis. And for me, that's why I've reframed it in my mind that like, I do have a big responsibility. I do have a big energetic impact. So why am I not nurturing and mothering myself as number one priority? Like there is this cultural expectation, like, look at all the mother wounds. Look, like, let's give mothers mercy, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, awesome. All the more reason why I should be my number one priority. If that is the impact that the mother makes on culture and society. And yes, on the opposite end, kind of diving into Elizabeth Gilbert's post is like, holy geez, can we just be imperfect beings? And it can go back to body image in women. Like why is it that the older men get, the more sexier they get? Like, why is gray hair so good looking on men and wrinkles, but women, it's like, oh, look, she smiled. She's got a crack in her face. Like, what is going on? Why can't we need to literally pull back the masks and the layers and say, ladies, who have created these cultural expectations of women? Maybe it was men, but we can take a stand for how we want to feel. And slowly I see that happening. And it's almost like, these secret trailblazers. But it's so important to realize, yes, if we give the mercy to mothers, we have to give that to ourselves as well. because we are that on a micro scale.
So for the listeners out there who are mothers, or maybe they're not even mothers, but they're still harsh on themselves and they are still trying to be everything to everyone, they too know that, yes, they ignore their body and their feelings, and they probably don't give themselves much mercy. Do you have any tips on like how to even just get started on that forgiveness process, that merciful process, to allow yourself the permission to focus on what you want?
Okay. So I am that woman. I will probably always be that woman. And the older I get, the more I practice this, the impact of, this inner critic and all of that may not have such a tight grip on me, right? So I want people to know that we never get over this. We never people are like, when I rid myself of the fear or guilt, I believe it's always there and we need to manage it.
Yeah.
This is why I always tell people, I'm like, if you don't have children, you actually do have children. Because I consider my fear and guilt and all of that like an inner child. It's like a child that I have to manage. I'm like, no, not today. I have boundaries, right? I let you rest a little bit, but now I got to show up. And so I find that I'll go through cycles, and there's hormone cycles and things like that. But we can be very, very hard on ourselves. And I have to realize, the brain will dictate my actions. And so when I find that I'm in this mental loop of I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this, that's my opportunity. And I say opportunity because it's the symptom to the deeper rooted problem, which is to stop. So I typically do the opposite of what I want to do. So when you don't think you have enough, that's your opportunity to reflect on why you do have enough. So I stop, and I know people don't like journaling, or some people don't like journaling. I've learned to love it. Pen to paper, not this oh, I have a journaling app. We are so addicted to our phones and desktop, let that shit go. Pen to paper and just write how you are feeling. This is not structured, so your left brain is not going to enjoy this process, but we need to jump over to the right side. And I will literally put a timer on my phone or just look at the time and give myself 2 to 3 minutes and say, just let it out. Do a brain dump. That brain dump could be everything that's on your mind that you think you need to get off your chest, that you need to do. And then oftentimes once I get that out, I will ask myself, what do you want? What do you want? And something might be in the moment, I need a glass of water. I want a nap. I want a bath. I want my hair done. I want some new underwear. I want to go on a trip. I want really close friends. I want to make $1 million. It could be something as simple from a glass of water to a big dream. And then the next step is to start taking those micro steps of courage, those micro action steps, because action, ladies, we need to take action. And just reading a book or planning and making your calendar look perfect is not taking action. The magic happens in the action, in the doing, and that is when all your discomfort will come up. So I write in my book, I need to take a bath. Every ounce of your being and your brain is I can't, then you do. And you have to start experimenting with yourself of why you do have time for these things, because if you don't, your life will eventually show you. You say you don't have time? Okay, Heather, I will show you that you have no time left. And so it seems simple, but it was in the writing and in the actual doing of what my soul was craving that brought me back to life. And now, rinsing and repeating that process and, refining it and taking it to the next level has allowed me to do that. And is my work in alignment? Are these relationships in alignment? Am I always just doing what everyone else wants me to do? Or am I doing what my soul is craving as well? And how can I be flexible? And we can meet both our needs in alignment with how we both want to feel.
I love this. And by the way, guys, I promise we did not talk about this in advance, and I did not pay Heather to say, stop reading the books and planning and start doing. But yes, this is...
Do you say that all the time?
Take action. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to take action. You need a good plan, right? And you need the information. But at some point, that's all you're doing. So many people. that I see. That's all they do. And they won't take the action. And that's where the change happens, is taking action. So I love this. And perhaps that's something we can challenge all of the listeners to do today. Well, journaling and find one thing that they can take action on today, whether they feel like they say they want it, right? But we still have resistance around it. Just doing it, of just taking some small step to give yourself what you need.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because that's how I structured my coaching. I was like, okay, it's acting and implementing, right? But I should mail everybody like a bag of noodles and be like, this is pretty much what your life experience from now on is going to be. You're going to cook these noodles. You're going to throw them at the wall. You're going to see which one sticks. You're going to have your strategy. You're going to have whatever. But guess what? What works for one person, what works for one child, what works for one relationship or business is not going to work for the next, which is why when you have your plan, but you also have your wisdom, right? Your body wisdom. Does this feel good to me? Does this work for me? And then you amalgamate both of them while you're implementing. That is experiential learning. And that I'm like, guys, this is where the magic happens. And I don't know, this is where I get frustrated with like how our children are taught these days, because growing up, I wasn't taught this way and I didn't perform well academically, but I didn't realize how hands-on I was and how experiential I was. And it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur and a business owner where I was like, oh my God, this is like throw noodles at the wall. That works. Keep doing that. Oh, that didn't work. Don't do that. And I'm like, this is possible, but we have to realize that our fear is false evidence appearing real. And the second you say yes to something on that list, when you're like, oh crap, I got to do that, your whole body and your mind are going to have this reaction and it's going to go into fight or flight. The primal brain is going to pop up and it's going to say, I need to stay safe. I need to stay safe. And you're just sitting there at your desk, ready to hit submit on an email. You're not dying. There's no like lions and tigers chasing you, but your brain is trying to keep you safe. And so the more and more I realize and practice that, it's all false evidence appearing real. The guilt, false evidence appearing real. I just need to lean more into how I want to feel. I don't need to be with my children 24 hours a day for them to know that I made an impact in their lives and that I love them. And it's work. It's work, guys. You got to look at it every single day. This is what personal development is all about.
Heather, thank you so much for coming on the show. So everyone, you can go check out Heather's TED Talk. Also listen to her podcast. You can subscribe. Mom is in Control. And we will put your link to your website in our show notes as well. But anywhere else that people can find you or anything, if they're interested in working with you, how would they go about doing it?
Yeah. So like the hub, you can find me online at myname.com. So Heather, and then Chauvin is spelled CHAUVIN.com. That's where the podcast, everything is, the TEDx talk. And, you know, if you are interested in working with me, you can check that out as well. But it's really just all, like you said, taking action. So I highly, highly suggest that whatever, I'm like, listen to that soul calling, ladies, whatever that is where your life is like begging for your attention, just lean in towards it and take one small action and see how it gives you relief. And then you know you're headed in the right direction.
Yay. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
I am super excited to announce that the Life and Law Planner is officially here. It is more than just a calendar. It is a full planning system. If you want to take back your days, your weeks, your months, and your year, order your planner now. It will completely change your life and help you accomplish your biggest goals. There's only a limited quantity available, so go to lifeandlawplanner.com and order yours today.